I sat in my cozy office, reviewing patients' medical histories. Although my mind was far away, I had to pretend I was working, but in reality, I was in a state of depression. I remembered how it all happened 15 years ago, just before Christmas Eve. I was a young, aspiring surgeon finishing my shift at the emergency clinic. Among those seeking help was Stella, who had been ice skating with friends and had an unfortunate fall. After examining her and taking an X-ray, I identified a severe dislocation and a bruise of the soft tissues resulting from the fall. It turned out we lived nearby, and since she did not require hospitalization, I gave her a ride home in the ambulance. There, I helped her up to her apartment and agreed to visit her and monitor her recovery process. Stella was studying economics at the university and was in her graduating year. We grew close without realizing it, and in May, we got married. Our studies were completed. I was assigned to work at a district hospital, and Stella was placed in the same area by my workplace. Upon arrival, I was provided with housing in the city center, and Stella got a job at a reputable firm. Soon, Stella went on maternity leave, and we had a daughter, Christine, who was now 14 years old. Thanks to my skilled hands, I quickly made connections and acquaintances. Shortly after Christine's birth, we bought a house within the city limits and under the guise of capital, built a decent 2-story cottage and had gas and water installed. Christine grew up to be a sociable girl and was now in the 8th grade, quite independent. It was she who noticed some estrangement in Stella, and one day, overhearing a conversation at the firm, she realized that her mother was cheating on me. However, she couldn't bring herself to tell me, nor did she dare to confront her mother about it, understanding that it would destroy our family, which she was so proud of. Rumors that Stella was seeing the firm's director reached the hospital. One day, I learned about it too. I didn't believe it at first and decided to find out everything myself. A friend who had a private detective license helped me with this. We met, discussed the inadmissibility of violating the sanctity of private life, and he agreed to discreetly assist me. Within a week, he confirmed Stella's infidelity. That day, I struggled, not knowing how to tell my daughter about my decision to separate from Stella. But she understood my mood and, when I began to speak, interrupted me, saying she knew, and if I divorced her, she wanted to stay with me, hoping I wouldn't leave her. No, of course, daughter, I won't leave you. But your mother has long been gone from us, I explained. She takes advantage of me being a surgeon and spending a lot of time at work, receiving calls from patients or colleagues at any time, which I can't refuse, while she disappears from home. She told her lover about me, that she can take care of herself. I've done everything for her, and most importantly, I gave birth to her. Let her be thankful when you tell her we know everything. As soon as we can find a shelter at home, she won't let us live, especially since her lover doesn't need a scandal. Dad, where did he come from? The company where she works was managed by a CEO, and he, having retired due to age, remained only as a founder and appointed his son-in-law as the new CEO. Dad, he's about 10 years younger than Mom. Today, the housing issue was unexpectedly resolved. The operating nurse, Diana, who was part of the surgical team, witnessed me making a phone call and told me, I can rent you a corner at my place. I have a private house divided in half. The other half belongs to my brother, but he's not planning to live there and has long told me to rent out his rooms. There's a separate entrance, a proper toilet, water, and gas. I also have a daughter, but she's currently at my mother's. I'll take her back in March. Great. I have a daughter too, 14 years old, and my husband turned out to be just for myself, so there's no husband. His debt collectors are looking for him all over the country. They even came to me, and to you. Why did that scoundrel take out a loan at the bank and disappear? The local police officer even thinks I killed him. And what did you say? I gave him a shovel and told him to look in my garden. Well, and what did he find? No. He got offended and doesn't even greet me anymore. I resolved the housing issue. Today I plan to confront Stella, and tomorrow morning, since she had some 5-minute meetings at work on Saturdays, I would take my daughter and move to the new place of residence. The door opened, Diana walked in and said, Dr. Vincent, an ambulance brought in an accident victim. I'm going. I put aside the papers and proceeded to the reception room. What I saw there shocked me. The victim was unconscious, covered in blood, his clothes partially torn due to the accident. I asked the ambulance doctor, what happened to him? He was speeding somewhere, lost control, and got hit by an oncoming truck. which threw his car and hit the guardrail. They had to use jacks to extract him from the car. Here are his documents. The doctor handed the documents to Diana, who looked at the patient, assessed him, and said, "Dr. Vincent, should we call the on-call surgeon?" "No, you see, he can't handle it. He's only been working with us for a year. Maybe then send him to the region?" "No, we won't make it. Call the anesthesiologist and the orderly, get him on the table." "Dr. Vincent, this is Gavin Davis, the director of the firm where your wife works. Can you imagine what will happen if he doesn't survive? I'm not going to kill him. I still have a daughter to raise." And then, I took the Hippocratic Oath. Well, more precisely, the doctor's oath. I'll save him, although one wrong move, and he's gone. The operation lasted almost 6 hours and ended at night. After finishing, I thanked the team. The operated Gavin, still under anesthesia, was taken to the intensive care unit. I, removing my gloves and mask, stepped out into the main corridor and headed towards my office. A young, attractive woman with a coat thrown over her shoulders and an elderly man approached me. The woman said, "I am Gavin Davis's wife, and this is my father. Tell me, will Gavin live?" I can't lie, the chances are 50-50ths, but our team did everything possible to save him. I can give you a more accurate prognosis in the morning after rounds, around 10. "Sorry, Dr. Vincent." "Yes, I am Dr. Vincent. Your spouse works at the firm with Gavin, the leading economist, quite possibly. Now, excuse me, I am honestly tired, and my daughter is waiting for me at home." I called Diana, who had just come out of the operating block, and quietly said, "Diana, tomorrow I am moving. Will you be home?" "Yes, I'll be in place, and now, get ready. I'll give you a lift." We're on the way. Half an hour later, I dropped Diana off at her house and drove to my own. I quietly opened the door, undressed in the hallway, and on my way, peeked into my daughter's room. She wasn't asleep and whispered to me. She came home at 7 o'clock, angry as a dog, calling someone all the time. "Everything's fine. Tomorrow we're moving. Don't go to school." I went into the kitchen, where Stella was sitting. A bottle of dry wine was on the table. She was drunk, and seeing me, she asked, "Well, where have you been roaming?" "Stella, you could have called the reception room and asked where I was and what I was doing. It's very necessary. They are soft and cheap. Then you would have found out that I was with your lover." "What lover? Have you gone mad at your job?" "No, I'm not mad. I performed surgery. I assume he will live, but now I don't know with whom." "With you, with his wife, or alone, but you decide that. Especially since you have your Saturday 5-minute meeting tomorrow." "Enough of this nonsense. You're probably just drunk. You know I don't drink at work. Especially since I have to drive home, and I need to be sober behind the wheel. I'm going to sleep, back to my room." "Yes, I'm tired and want to rest." "Aren't you going to have dinner?" "No, I don't feel like it." "Have you already had dinner somewhere?" "No, I just don't want to eat." I walked to my room, beginning to resolve what I needed to pick up tomorrow while Stella was at her Saturday 5-minute meeting. I understood that it would probably end sooner than usual, unless she now calls someone and finds out that her lover is in the hospital. My words that I had operated on him were perceived as a taunt, and she decided she would demonstrate to me that I was mistaken. Stella finished her glass of wine, put the snack in the fridge, and went to the bedroom she occupied, threw off her robe, and climbed into bed. She was genuinely upset. Her lover Gavin hadn't come to meet her at the hotel where he had a room booked. He hadn't answered calls since morning. He had gone to check on work at a site outside the city and promised to come to her for a date in the evening. Usually, they were there on weekdays after work for no more than 2 hours. It was strange that, not waiting for her lover, she came home, but I was not home. Calling me at work to find out where I was, she considered beneath her dignity. When Stella came home, our daughter was having dinner and said nothing about where I was. She silently walked into the room. Stella followed and asked, "What's this maneuver?" "No maneuver. It's the first time in 6 months you've come home around 7 p.m. and immediately start making demands. Did you not finish your work?" "Everything's fine with me, very good, but I need to finish my homework." "Where's Dad?" "I don't know. He didn't call me, so he must be busy." In the morning, Stella went to work, or rather, to the hotel, waited until noon, but Gavin didn't show up. He usually stopped by work at this time, so she decided to wait for him there. She was about to turn off the TV, which she had turned on to pass the time, when the news reported yesterday's accident on the highway and showed footage from the scene. By the shown license plate, she recognized Gavin's car, meaning I told the truth, and openly announced that I saved her lover from death. Thus, Someone had informed me about their affair, and now there was a problem. She needed to save our marriage. She wanted to go home, but remembered that our daughter was at school, and I, on Saturdays, slept in after a hard week. Better not to disturb me. But she needed to stop by work. Maybe someone there knew something about this accident. After Stella left, I quickly got ready, picked up some prepared items, and went to work. On the way, I unloaded the items at Diana's house. She also had a day off. She asked, "Where's your daughter?" "She's still at home, gathering her things, and I need to drive to work to check on the patient we operated on." "Are you talking about yesterday's?" "Well, I called the girls in intensive care. They said he's fine, woke up early in the morning." "Dr. Vincent, hand over this patient to another doctor. We have surgeons. Let them gain experience, and if necessary, they can consult with you." "Diana, I see you clearly want to offload him from my hands. But why?" "Simply, I see how you are suffering from your wife's infidelity. Everyone already knows, and I don't want you to use the moment and treat her lover to death. Besides, it's unknown what will happen to him next, and you know that most likely he will be disabled. Yes, some organs had to be removed, but he won't become disabled. But if he does become disabled, you will be blamed. Perhaps you're right, and Diana, let's do this. One-on-one we're on informal terms, but in front of people, we're formal, agreed? You are older, I think by about 5 years. Okay, agreed. Bring your daughter." I arrived at the hospital, went to intensive care, looked at the device's readings, the patient's test results, decided not to wake him, stepped out into the corridor where Gavin's wife and her father were waiting. She asked, "Can we talk?" "Yes, of course, come with me." We walked into my office. I offered them seats. The woman began to speak first. "Sorry, everything turned out to be a bit chaotic. Tell me, what's the prognosis for today?" "The prognosis is normal. He survived the night, came to himself in the morning. All indicators are normal. Now he needs peace and care. And here's the problem. Gavin is a womanizer, and I know about it, and I know that he meets with your wife. I think you know this too. What do you suggest? During the surgery, to remove something extra and make him a eunuch, or what?" "No need for any surgeries. The thing is that my father and I, as founders, have made a decision to remove him from the position of CEO. I informed him by phone yesterday. He started yelling that he would soon be in the office and deal with us. Then I additionally informed him to pick up a copy of the divorce petition I filed in court from the secretary, seeking alimony for the maintenance of 2 children, after which the connection was cut off. I suppose that was when he got into the accident. I sympathize with you. No need. He was simply punished by God. On behalf of me and my father, we apologize for the villainy committed by my husband. Tell me, will you continue to treat him? I think it would be correct to transfer further treatment to another doctor. I'm not the only surgeon doctor in this hospital, but you are the only one they say has golden hands. Thank you. And now, excuse me. I'll go to the office. I need to take up the position of CEO. We owe you something." "No, you don't owe me anything. I did my job, and I very much hope that it was done well. Although there will be a request, do not fire her. My daughter is aware of her affair and took it very badly, refuses to live with her, and until she is 18, there are still 4 years. So it is in my interest that my ex-wife has a good salary, and she would pay me alimony from it." "Do you need the money?" "No, I wouldn't say that. This alimony will go to my daughter's account, and she will use it when she grows up, say for education or gets married, although I won't guess. It's up to her to decide. Tell me, did you yourself notice that your wife had an affair?" "Well, how to tell you? I didn't notice at first. When they told me, I started analyzing Stella's behavior, and then it came to the realization that she became gloomy, evil, and it was difficult to live with her, although earlier she was a bright, enthusiastic, and charming young woman whom I married. At the same time, she got so caught up with your husband that she didn't notice how she forgot about me, about our daughter. She suddenly became uninterested in everything related to us. But you have such a prestigious job. You are a respected person. Just for this, the one next to you should know that there are also minuses in my job. First of all, it is a great responsibility for the patient's life. Plus, we often don't have a second chance, and many decisions have to be made very quickly. This is not a computer game where having lost, you can start all over again. And having started something, not always can work be postponed for tomorrow. Some operations last for 18 hours, and all this time you have to work as clearly and focused as possible. Ultimately, of course, there is overstrain and stress, and then your wife added stress to me. Sorry, of course, but I have to go. My daughter is waiting for me. In my car, made 3 trips. The last trip, I picked up the remaining things and my daughter. At the new place, we decided who would occupy which room. Diana offered a room for Christine on her half of the house. She said it's empty anyway, and the heating goes there, so let Christine occupy it. When my daughter comes, they will have more fun. And another question, will you cook yourself? Diana, if you feed us, we will increase the rent, which, by the way, we have not yet discussed. You don't have to pay for square meters. This is my house. But for services, water, gas, sewage, garbage disposal, and how much should I pay monthly? The sum divided by 3 and multiplied by 2, and for food, it will be calculated separately. I hope not at restaurant rates. No. Of course, you will sometimes buy groceries. In agreement with me, we can also go shopping for groceries together, another option. From groceries, potatoes, onions, sauerkraut, pickles, tomatoes are not needed, as well as strawberry jam, honey, currants with sugar. All this I have in excess, enough in apples. And by the way, good varieties will lie until spring. And then what can be bought? Meat, although just in case. Homemade stew is prepared. Diana, what don't you have? Condensed milk from birds. Does it even exist? No, it doesn't exist. It's not true. Dad, there is a bird's milk cake. And we have a housewarming party. Agreed. I'll go to the store for a cake. Set the table. I threw on a jacket and headed to the shopping center. Meanwhile, Stella entered the office. The security guard sitting on the turnstile told her no one was there, but Tanya Davis and her father had passed into Gavin Davis's office, and Gavin Davis himself had not arrived. Yes, he seems to have gotten into an accident and apparently into serious trouble. What exactly? Tanya Davis said that he no longer works here. As soon as he gets out of the hospital, they will hand him his employment record and he's free. And in which hospital is he lying? In our city, there's only one. I think he's there in the trauma unit. It's generally unclear how he survived. Did you see this accident? No. I saw the car. It's parked in our backyard. It was transferred to us for safekeeping. The investigation will conduct an examination. I understand they are now deciding this. Although honestly, I don't understand what they can find there. And you, where did you know from? I used to work in the police, retired, and found a part-time job as a security guard, and my brother is still working in the police, but he's also thinking about resigning. And did your brother tell you anything? He said that the truck driver said that Gavin Davis was driving towards him and was talking on the phone. Then the car spun, and he crashed into it. It threw him back, and he crashed into the guardrail. And what about the driver? Apparently, he stayed alive, didn't even require hospitalization, and Gavin Davis was extracted from the car by the emergency services using a jack. Well, are you going to the office? No, I think it would be somewhat untimely. I'll go home. Today is a day off anyway. Stella walked out onto the street, walked to the bus stop, and half an hour later approached the cottage, entered the house, noticed that my clothes were not in the hallway, wondered where I could have gone. Actually, she needed to urgently figure out what I said about operating on her lover. She didn't go to our daughter's room, knew that Christine was at school, went into the kitchen, thought about it, and dialed my number, but no answer followed. Probably again at the hospital, maybe again. Surgery, dialed the reception room, asked the girls, "Is Dr. Vincent in place?" This is his wife asking. He was here in the morning, met with the patient's relatives, but left long ago. How long ago? 4 hours ago, so we don't know where he is, and he's not on duty today. No, Dr. Vincent spent 6 hours in the operating room yesterday. Understood. Stella turned off, took out the unfinished bottle from yesterday from the fridge, cut lemons, poured half a glass of wine, drank, and thought again, everything is going very badly. Did I really find out about her affair with Gavin? She should have stopped this long ago, and with horror, thought, what if his wife knows about it? She'll grind me into powder. Meanwhile, I returned with the cake. We sat down to eat and proceeded to dessert. Christine, transferring another healthy piece of cake to her plate, stated, "Dad wanted to skimp on the cake. It's harmful for you, but not for me. Besides, what do I have to be afraid of? There are 2 of the best medics in the district and even in the region at home." The conversation continued, during which Diana said, "To avoid problems, I'll open the interroom door that divides the house into 2 halves. I think there's no need to use 2 kitchens, especially since we've agreed on food. So, Vincent, It's your responsibility to clear the snow in the yard. No problem. Winter's not long. Of course, not long. Only in the summer the grass will grow. You'll have to mow it, and preferably with a hand scythe. Or maybe with a trimmer. No, Vince, mowing with a trimmer is torture. Either the line doesn't pull or from mowing with a disc, due to vibration, the hands get tired. Besides, it's best to mow after the dew, that is, early in the morning. Christine and I will be sleeping, and you'll start making noise in the yard. So it's better the old-fashioned way. I'm embarrassed to ask, is snow also to be cleared at night? With snow, it's easier, but you have to keep in mind that you need snow shovels for its removal. So tomorrow we'll stop by the Department of Household Goods and buy one. The one I have broke and can't be repaired. And with a snow shovel, you can't clear much. Meanwhile, Gavin began to come to his senses late in the evening. He realized when he woke up for the first time that he was lying in a hospital, in an intensive care unit. A nurse rushed up. A duty doctor approached, looked at the device's readings, said that he needed to sleep more, gave him an injection, and he gradually fell asleep. When he woke up for the first time, he felt no pain, but now everything hurt. The nurse, having received a signal, came and asked, "Mr. Davis, how do you feel?" "I'm in pain." "What hurts?" "Everything hurts." "That's how it should be. Now I'll give you an injection, the pain will go away." I rose early Sunday morning to clear the snow, but quickly found that a snow shovel made the task challenging. Nevertheless, I cleared a path so we could drive out. Returning to the house, Diana was already bustling in the kitchen. "Have you cleared the snow yet?" she asked. "Not all of it. I've only managed the path. We'll buy a snow shovel, then I can clear the rest in the yard." Christine's still asleep. What else is there for a kid to do on our lawful day off? "And what about the music last night?" "We watched a music program on TV, sat in the living room, and had fun." "What are your plans for today?" "I suggest letting Christine sleep in while we head to work. I need to check on a patient, and then we can swing by the hardware store for that shovel." "What about breakfast?" "It's ready." "Shall we wake Christine?" "I'll ask her. Maybe she'd prefer to sleep in and eat later." At that moment, Christine entered the kitchen and announced, "I heard everything. I'll have breakfast with you, and then go with you to see what kind of shovel you buy. And for breakfast, I'd like some of that cake from yesterday. We didn't finish it, and it might go bad." "Christine, you'll eat some potatoes and cutlets first, then you can have cake with tea." "Okay, just a little potato and one cutlet, but a larger slice of cake." We fortified ourselves and set off. We arrived at the hospital, where Diana and Christine went to the staff room while I ascended to my office to change. A nurse at the post informed me, "Dr. Vincent, your patient Gavin Davis is stable. He woke up about half an hour ago." "Excellent, but I won't transfer him from the ICU yet. He doesn't bother us, but there's an old lady here with heart issues that the cardiologists call about every 6 hours." "I know who you mean. She's not old. Our cardiothoracic surgeon performed that surgery, and if all goes well, he'll be promoted and consulted from all over the region." "And you? Are you moving up too?" "No, I'm not planning to go anywhere yet." "Well, I'll go see the patient." I entered the room. Gavin, who was not asleep, recognized me from a company party before Stella, and he had become lovers. Gavin greeted me. "Hello, doctor." "Hello. How are you feeling?" "Thank you, but everything hurts." "That's not surprising. Let's see how you are." After examining Gavin with the help of a nurse, I advised, "Now it all depends on you. Rest, take your medications on time, and you'll be discharged home in a month." "I won't be disabled, will I?" "No. Everything should work out, but it all takes time." "Is it true you're transferring me to another doctor?" "Yes, I'm not the only specialist here." "I know, but you're the best." "That's debatable. But I am the only surgeon your mistress cheated on. I think my treatment under you might be biased and could end fatally." "How bluntly put. Is that what you expected?" "So today, I hope it's the last time I see you. I've done everything I can to save you. You probably won't even be disabled." "I would like to apologize." "Not to me. Go to a psychologist or church. They'll listen for a small fee, and the church will even forgive your sins." But it all turned out so stupidly. She was so lonely, complained that her husband was never home. "If I was always at home, who would save people like you?" "You know, the surgery took almost 6 hours and our team had already worked a full shift. We couldn't leave it till tomorrow. Besides, I have a 14-year-old daughter who needs her mother, who is no longer there for her. What happened with you is of little interest to me. I promised to break off all ties with her. I don't need that. My daughter and I have left her, and I will not forgive her. I will be filing for divorce. Goodbye." I returned to my department, spoke with a nurse at the post, picked up Diana and Christine, and we left the hospital. Stella woke up in the living room, having moved there the wine and some snacks the previous night, turned down the volume, and fell asleep on the couch. As dawn broke, the television was still on, showing some entertainment program. Increasing the volume, she saw a show popular in the U.S. during the 1950s, now repackaged as a novelty. Stella thought it was time to throw out the TV. There were 100 programs, but nothing worth watching, just the same comedy show restarting on another channel. She remembered my comment about this. It's just persistent advertising of occultism. Those who fall for it end up losing their money and, if they're sick, on our operating table, where not everyone can be saved due to their advanced illnesses. And why can't witches be prosecuted? In the Middle Ages, it was easier. Many were burned at the stake. But today, even the church isn't the same, and the state protects fraudsters so well that traditional healing was officially allowed in our country in 1993. Furthermore, there are official documents certifying the professional suitability of traditional folk medicine practitioners, herbalists, bone setters, psychics, although officials claim they can't guarantee these specialists' safety to the public. And what do you need to become a healer? Nothing. Not even a medical education is necessary, just purported innate abilities and extensive professional experience. They're even classified as mid-level medical personnel in healthcare and listed as folk medicine healers and healers. Thank God we don't have such staff in hospitals, but many charlatans and bone setters practice at home legally. They can't get hospital jobs but disguise themselves as masseurs, psychologists, and manual therapists. These memories flickered through Stella's mind as she turned off the TV and decided to wake up her husband and then rouse Christine to prepare breakfast. She went to the room where I had lately been sleeping, knocked, and without waiting for a response, entered. The bed was neatly made, but the absence of a pillow struck her. The room lacked my computer and laptop. Opening the closet, she found it empty of my clothes. Realizing something was amiss, she went to our daughter's room and found a similarly neat bed and a complete absence of Christine's belongings. Only then did she understand that we had left her. There was a slim hope we had gone somewhere for the weekend, but then why take all our belongings? Christine had even taken her small plush teddy bear. After wandering aimlessly around the house, Stella called my workplace and asked the girls, "Tell me about the surgeon Dr. Vincent. He was here in the morning but left a long time ago. And will he be back? He said not to expect him today. It's his day off." And what was he doing at work on his day off? He was visiting a seriously ill patient. Thank you. Who was he visiting? Sorry, we can't provide that information. Stella understood that she could only meet me at work on Monday, and she realized that Monday would be a very difficult day at work for her, facing Tanya Peterson without any hope. She dialed my phone, and I answered. I'm listening. Vincent, where have you and Christine gone? We left you. I thought that was clear. Or didn't you notice we took our things? But that's not right. It's not right when a wife tumbles in bed with her boss. But it is right that we left you to avoid being ridiculed. Vincent, you misunderstood everything. That's a useless conversation. I'm a bit busy. Call back in a couple of hours, and maybe I'll have time then. Christine is with me, by the way. Don't worry about her. In fact, we haven't worried about you for a long time. Stella wanted to argue, but the call ended with a beep. Diana, Christine, and I went to the hardware store, approached the displayed snow shovels, and I asked Diana, well, as an expert on shovels, what do you recommend? Plastic ones are lighter but break quickly. If you carefully collect snow, that's one thing, but another factor is low temperatures. At high temperatures, the snow will melt on its own. But there's another option. We buy 2 shovels, one plastic and one metal. At that moment, my phone rang. I looked, saw it was my wife, and spoke very briefly, excusing myself due to being busy, and suggested she contact me in a couple of hours. Then I ended the conversation. Christine said, Dad, you promised to take me ice skating. Let's go now with the shovels. Why not? Let's stop by home, leave the shovels, change for skating, and then go. While we changed, Diana made sandwiches and prepared tea. We drove to an indoor rink, rented skates, and skated for a long time. My phone rang several times during this period, but I ignored the calls as they were from Stella. In the evening, we sat in a corner of the rink, ate sandwiches, drank tea, and then drove home. At home, Diana said, I'll prepare dinner. Christine, if you want, you can help. Of course, I want to. And are we making cake since yesterday's is finished? We'll think of something. I'll clean up the yard while it's not snowing. I finished my outdoor work in an hour, entered the house, and changed into home clothes. At that moment, Stella called again. I decided to speak with her. I'm listening, Vincent. You promised to talk to me in a couple of hours, and I can't get through to you. I was busy. What do you want to hear? Vincent, I want you and Christine to come home. We could start over. I won't meet with Gavin again. I never forgot about you and Christine, and I think we should be together. I don't think so. You knew Gavin was married, right? That he has children who are still in school. Neither you nor he thought about that. I paused, then continued. You knew he used his affairs with mostly married women to break several marriages, and the only thing I can do for you is to simply get divorced. I won't give you a divorce. My fling with Gavin was just a dalliance, and it meant nothing to me. It may mean nothing to you, but it means a lot to me and Christine. You shouldn't have told her about it. You told her yourself. I didn't tell her anything. We haven't really spoken for months, especially not about Gavin. And with him, I had no serious relationship. It was just a non-committal fling. It meant nothing. I already told you. I love only you and Christine. Stop spouting nonsense. When you went on your first date with Gavin, everything between us was over. Now, I'm filing papers and preparing for divorce. When I wanted to talk to Christine, she told me she knew everything about you and your lover. You said she was a grown girl who could take care of herself, and you've done everything for her, including giving birth to her. Do you want to say she knew about me and Gavin? You've made a fine mess of saving our marriage. No, I'm not going to do that. Moreover, due to you breaking our marriage vows, you'll soon be served with divorce papers. I won't have anything to do with a woman who cheats. Marriage vows are an outdated relic. What papers are you planning to serve me? I told you, divorce papers. Vincent, have you thought about your daughter? About her. I am thinking about her. A role model like you is very unfortunate. You're exaggerating. Let's meet and talk. About what? About Gavin's health? I'll tell you straight away. He will live. How long? I don't know. He'll be allowed visitors in about 10 days when he's transferred from the ICU to a ward, as his wife apparently isn't planning to visit him. You informed her too that I cheated with her husband? Do you realize you've destroyed his family? I only saw his wife for the first time after surgery and spoke with her for less than a minute because I was tired. Then where did she learn about it? You can ask her about that on Monday. So she knows everything? Yes. And not just about you. In general, we've talked. Christine is calling me to dinner. Let me talk to her. Sorry, she doesn't want anything to do with you. Today, don't bother us. We won't answer. But I want to hear Christine. You've probably called her, but she isn't picking up the phone, which means she doesn't want to talk to you. Good night. I ended the conversation and walked into the kitchen where Diana and Christine were cheerfully discussing their days skating and planning for the next weekend. Christine suggested, Dad, let's go to the ski resort next weekend and do some skiing. You have friends there who owe you favors. And Diana too. She knows them as well. We could stay for 2 days. But won't you get kicked out of school for skipping? Why? It's not like Saturday is your day off. Dad, you can talk to my teacher. She's quite fond of you. Christine, I'll think about it. And don't forget, Diana and I have responsibilities. There are days we can't travel far from the city and must be within reach. As for your teacher, she's married, and I treated her husband. Why doesn't anyone know about this? Because teachers' personal lives aren't students' business. But since I treated her husband, she owes me one. Christine, I help people selflessly, and so will she, letting you off for one Saturday. But you've already skipped one Saturday. Honestly, Dad, not just one. I just didn't tell you. Enough arguing. Sit down for dinner. And we need to think about Christmas. I suggest we set up a tree and invite Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. Speaking in the words of a seasoned comrade, we'll raise a Baba Yaga in our team. What do you mean? I'll be Santa Claus, you'll be Mrs. Claus, and we'll congratulate Christine over the phone. Why over the phone? I saw the work schedule for Christmas Eve. We'll be having a banquet in the operating room. And who will we dance with? If I knew. But emergency services will definitely bring someone. Then I'll be at work with you. Are you planning to leave a child alone at home? Meanwhile, Stella woke up and started preparing for work. She arrived on time, removed her coat and boots, put on her shoes, and sat at her desk to touch up her eyebrows and lashes, a typical morning ritual at work. Usually, she was never called to the various brief meetings. Gavin usually summoned her after all these events were over. The employees had reported on their work and received new tasks. But last Friday changed much in her life. She awaited an invitation to the management team, but instead, The HR representative came in and informed her that as of today, they had a new director, Tanya Peterson. No other changes occurred. Shortly before lunch, Stella was called to the new director's office. She entered and was offered a seat. Tanya Peterson asked, "Stella, start by telling me what's happening on the project you manage." "I manage not one, but several projects, and work is progressing. Our foremen are coping, and there are no problems. Everything will be done on time. I'm asking about the project that's due to be handed over before Christmas. That's all normal, and it might even be completed ahead of schedule." "Good. Now about your non-work-related relations with Gavin Davis. As you understand, he suffered and was fired for this. We did have a small fling, but it was nothing significant to your marriage." "Stella, I think you don't fully understand the consequences of your actions. You speak as if nothing happened, just a harmless little flirt. But for me, for your husband, and for your daughter, it was a betrayal. But I didn't betray them, and I didn't really do anything special. Yes, we were close, but I don't think we caused any harm. You and I can't understand why you think breaking up your marriage with Gavin and my marriage with Vincent is necessary. Sort out your own issues with Vincent. As for Gavin, that issue is already resolved. And so you know, on the day he crashed, he didn't take you to the project site because he had a meeting at a motel with another woman who represented the client there. Her name is Kira, although I know you were also waiting for him at a hotel after work. Are you going to fire me? My work performance has no complaints. Who you live with doesn't interest me. Go back to work." Stella returned to her office and dialed my phone, deciding to be more assertive, only to receive a message that the subscriber's device was off or out of network coverage. Then she dialed the landline phone in my department, and a nurse answered. "Could you please get Dr. Vincent for me? He's not here right now. He's making rounds. Then he has patient appointments at the clinic. Can I pass on a message? Tell him his wife called. I need to talk to him urgently." "Okay, I'll let him know." Diana, recognizing Stella's voice, didn't let on but continued to converse, even mentioning that I was consulting with a lawyer today after rounds. When I walked to my office, a woman who had previously visited the department for a consultation related to a client who had sustained an injury at work and was lying in the surgical department caught up with me. I entered my office, and as Diana understood, the conversation touched not only on the patient. Then we both worked at the clinic reception. During lunch, I went to the school, picked up Christine, brought her home, then returned to the hospital. Thus began a routine. All Stella's attempts to contact me were cut off. I transferred Gavin's care to another doctor, and he was recovering. Only police visitors conducting investigations into the accident visited him, but it was clear to everyone that he was at fault for the accident, talking on the phone while driving, which was captured by a dashcam in the truck. Gavin didn't have a phone because his was damaged in the crash. When he began to walk around a bit, he managed to call his wife using a nurse's phone, but Tanya refused to speak with him, and Stella unexpectedly visited him. Kira, who represented the client, went to his room and spoke with him briefly, telling him her husband had left her and she was now a free woman with nowhere to live. Gavin responded that he too had problems. His wife had kicked him out, and he didn't know where he would go once discharged after the new year. The holidays approached, and shortly before, Stella was served with a court summons to consider a divorce petition and demand for alimony. She went to a lawyer who, after reviewing the documents, told her all she could do was delay the divorce process for up to 6 months. But he's divorcing on grounds of irreconcilable differences? That's right, to avoid proving infidelity and airing dirty laundry. Though in court, he could change the basis of the claim. Meanwhile, the decision on alimony will likely be issued at the first hearing and probably won't be postponed. Did you really cheat on him? I flirted a bit with my boss. I'm asking if you cheated or just flirted. Yes, I cheated. Try to ask for reconciliation and to remove the disagreements, but they don't want to meet with me. They avoid me. I wanted to catch my daughter outside school, but she left through the back door. The second time, I waited for her near her classroom, and she still ran away from me. In the evening, she called and said if I kept following her, she would transfer to another school. What does your husband say about this? He says it's my own fault. Once, I spoke with my lover on the phone, and my daughter heard everything. And what, he's that good? Absolutely not. It was just something new and somewhat mesmerizing. But honestly, there was no pleasure in those meetings. So why were they needed? I made a mistake, but I don't intend to repeat it. I think my husband won't believe that. He thinks leopards never change their spots. I think he'll never forgive me. Is it worth the time, nerves, and money to drag this out? I can think about it until January 10th. That's when the court session is scheduled. Diana, Christine, and I welcomed Christmas at the hospital. All night. Ambulances brought in people injured in snow-related incidents and during festivities. They suffered various injuries, but none required surgery. They were treated with casts and painkillers. Early in the morning, when the flow of patients ceased, Diana, Christine, and I, dressed as Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, and an elf, walked through the department, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. We returned home at that time. I received a call from Stella and decided to answer. I'm listening. Vincent, I wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas and say goodbye. What do you mean? We have court on the 10th. I was in court 2 days ago and signed the consent for divorce. Moreover, I've resigned from my job and am moving to live with my parents. I've gifted you my share in the cottage. The papers are all at home on the table. Why did you decide this? Because I know neither you nor Christine will forgive me. I've ruined my life. If you allow, I'll visit you when some time has passed. And if you meet a worthy woman, marry her. Christine should have a mother. The court indeed proceeded as Stella said. She left the city and moved to her parents. All documents were properly notarized and included a letter of apology to me and Christine. The divorce was finalized. I waived alimony, but Stella began sending money by mail. Then, I opened a bank account in our daughter's name for all the money. As Stella left, Christine and I returned to our cottage. I continued to see Diana, and 11 days later, her brother and his family came to live in their half of the house, to Christine's delight. Diana and her daughter moved in with us, and by summer, Diana and I filed for marriage. Tanya Peterson also didn't remain alone. She got to know one of the clients better and soon started living with him. After being discharged from the hospital, Gavin spent a long time in rehabilitation, trying to reconcile with Kira, but by the time he was discharged, she was already living with another man.